Welcome to the PreSnap Podcast, presented by LineStar. We're taking a look at the NFC South today in our division previews. Along with my co-host, Tyler Wiemann, I'm Shannon, Sommerville. And like I've said, we've been taking a look at some division previews leading up to NFL season, which is just weeks away. Tyler, football season is here, and we've got some good bets for you in fantasy. And if you are placing season-long bets, you want to stay tuned. We've got some good ones for you. I've got a pretty good one from a rookie running back that you don't want to miss, plus some fantasy studs that could help you out. The NFC South as a whole, maybe not the most attractive in terms of the competitiveness of the teams, per se. Last year, we had the Bucs winning this one with a losing record. This year should be a little bit better. We've got an interesting cast of characters in the NFC South that we'll be taking a look at. We're going to start things off by going with the team with the best odds to win the division to the worst odds. And I think if any indication of just the overall, landscape of the NFC South, it is the fact that the team with the best odds to win the NFC South have the 17th best odds to win the Super Bowl in this one. I think that kind of says everything you need to know about the NFC South. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, this division as a whole is pretty bad, but it should be on the rise. Maybe in a couple years it'll be all right.
I got a lot of rookies to talk about in this one. So let's just start things off talking about the New Orleans Saints, who themselves have a new quarterback in Derek Carr. Looking at their season in 2022, they finished 7-10. And some notable offseason moves include that Derek Carr acquisition. They also have Michael Thomas back in the fold, supposedly fully healthy. Tight end Foster Moreau, running back Jamal Williams comes over from Detroit. Also drafted defensive tackle Brian Bresee from Clemson, and edge defender Isaiah Foskey from Notre Dame in the second round. Dennis Allen enters his second season as head coach of the New Orleans Saints. A lot more expectations on the Saints team, especially given the fact that it's kind of up for grabs right now, and it's for the taking right now for the Saints and their new quarterback in Derek Carr. What are your overall thoughts about how they will fare in 2023?
Yeah, my overall thoughts is, they are definitely, them or the Falcons, the class of the division. Now, that's not saying that much, but they did probably get a little quarterback upgrade with Derek Carr. Olave is a really, really good young receiver. Really like him. And, they did have a upgrade at running back with the Jamal Williams signing. So
yeah,
I think they're a little interesting. Are they going to do much in the postseason? No.
Well, we also have a situation in Alvin Kamara, who's suspended the first 3 games of the season. The NFL came down with that ruling. On a brighter note, you've got Michael Thomas, who's supposedly healthy for the first time since 2019. However, you got Chris Olave there that's kind of taken over wide receiver 1 roles. What do you make of the Saints from a fantasy perspective?
Yeah, from a fantasy perspective, they have a couple interesting pieces. One, Derek Carr has had top wide receivers before, so I think Olave is very, very interesting. There's also Taysom Hill, who had some giant weeks as a tight end last year. So I think you absolutely have to consider him at tight end as well. And then we don't know what's really going on with the running back room yet. Mm-hmm. They do have Kendre Miller, they have Jamal Williams, and then obviously the first 3 games, Kamara suspended. So, what are those first 3 games going to look like? And then what is it going to look like once Kamara's back?
Exactly. So from a Underdog Fantasy season-long futures betting perspective, what intrigues you for some of these players' props on the Saints?
I got to go Chris Olave. I think he is going to be featured in this offense. Some of the metrics that I'm seeing from, his rookie season put him in the likes of Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., who had an amazing rookie year, and then Jamar Chase. So I think he is the real deal, and so I'm going to go higher than 5.5 touchdowns there.
I'm with you on Chris Olave. He was incredible last season, and I'm taking his over on receiving yards, over 1,065.5 yards in this one. As a rookie, he put up 1,042 and led the NFL in receiving yards per route run against man coverage. As a rookie, he finished 8th among all wide receivers in air yards. Now he gets Derek Carr, who is an upgrade from Andy Dalton. Sorry, Andy Dalton, but Carr has supported a top 12 wide receiver in both 2021 and 2022. I think he's going to do the same thing here with Chris Olave. Excited to see what he can do in 2023. I also like a defensive player prop here, and that's Cameron Jordan, higher than 7.5 sacks. Listen, I know he's getting up there in age, but if there's a drop-off, he hasn't hit it yet. He had 8.5 sacks just last year, and he hasn't had less than 7.5 sacks since 2012. That was his second season in the NFL. He's now entering his 13th season in a division that has Panthers rookie Bryce Young, second-year quarterback Desmond Ridder with the Atlanta Falcons, and Baker Mayfield and or Kyle Trask in Tampa Bay. This is the Saints' all-time sack leader who just got a big extension. I think he is going to prove that he is worth every single penny for the Saints defense in this one and go higher than 7.5 sacks. So that's my little defensive prop there that I liked. But love all the overs on Chris Olave. I'm excited to see what he can do, especially for fantasy owners. I've seen him going pretty high, as he should, in best ball drafts. But, I mean, this is an absolute stud of a player.
Yeah, he's great, and with a quarterback upgrade, you know, I really like him this year.
Next, let's go to the ATL, the Atlanta Falcons. Last season maybe surprised a few people. They finished with a 7-10 record. However, Arthur Smith and the Falcons, I think, really kind of like pulled out all the stops, getting the most out of their team that really didn't have a ton of talent. Now they went out and made some upgrades. Now, they did bring in quarterback Taylor Heineke as a backup, safety Jesse Bates, who was PFF's top-ranked free agent safety, to help out that defense. And also on the D-line, Calais Campbell, David Onyemata, and Eddie Goldman there. They've also brought in wide receiver Mac Hollins, and a big name that they drafted, running back Bijan Robinson from Texas, 8th overall. They also drafted offensive tackle Matthew Bergeron, second round from Syracuse, and I actually think that might be a crucial acquisition for them as well. But just looking at the overall team, what are your expectations for the Falcons in 2023, especially with that new dynamic running back they've got?
You know, I think they're a pretty interesting team. They, as you talked about, like, they seemingly were in almost every single game last year, and somehow just kind of kept chucking along. And I think we're probably going to see that a little bit once again this year. Maybe not be quite as efficient as they were on offense, but they have some really, really good playmakers. So I think it's an exciting team to kind of think about what could be if Ridder is able to make, you know, another jump forward.
Yeah, I think that is the big question mark, how he does in year two. Last year we saw a little bit of glimpses of him. And Arthur Smith has said this offseason that he has gotten better at decision-making, getting a little bit more comfortable. So will we see a step up from him? And quite frankly, he doesn't have to do a whole lot back there. They're going to take the pressure off him by just running the ball. No one ran the ball more than the Atlanta Falcons last year. And this season they're entering with probably one of the best offensive lines. And that's always nice when you're just a second-year quarterback having to sit behind that. They got Bijan Robinson there to carry the load as well. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing this offense in 2023. What underdog fantasy season-long bets are you eyeing, Tyler?
Going with Desmond Ridder, higher than 15.5 passing touchdowns. Look, Mariota had 15 touchdowns, didn't play the whole season. Ridder had 2 in 4 games. And Ridder is going to be at least as good of a passer as Mariota was. Mariota had a 61% completion percentage. Ridder had 63 in his very first 4 games as a starter, where Mariota has been a vet. So with all of the weapons they have and another full offseason to learn the system and learn the NFL, I think Ridder is going to take another step. And I think 15.5 is just a little low.
All right, I like your prop there for the over. I'm also going to take an over here for the Atlanta Falcons running back Bijan Robinson, higher than 1,099.5 rushing yards. I know that number is a little high, but when you consider the fact that this Atlanta team runs more than anyone else in the NFL, plus 8 of the last 11 running backs that were taken in the first round have gone over this. I went back and looked through some of the ones that have. You're talking about guys like Josh Jacobs went over. We had Fournette, ETN went over, Najee Harris, Saquon Barkley. All those guys went over. So now he's going into a team that has one of the best offensive lines to run behind. PFF ranked ATL 7th best entering this season. Bijan Robinson's an absolute stud, great breakaway speed, great acceleration, and behind this offensive line, I think he could cause some problems. I know right now he's listed as 3rd on the depth chart, but I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. I think he will find his way to RB1 status before too long. Hey, he's a first rounder. They're not going to sit him at number 3 on the depth chart for very long. That's all I got to say there. But I'm excited for his potential in 2023, especially for fantasy owners. Any thoughts there, Tyler?
Yeah, I think them putting him at 3 is just because he's a rookie. It's purely just giving respect to the vets that are there. Exactly. You know, he's going to be their number 1. I do expect a little bit of a timeshare, but with how much they used the running back last year, that won't matter. Exactly. If they have that kind of workload, you know, he's going to get the ball as much as he can handle.
Absolutely. They're just going to run the ball down people's throats. I'm excited to see what they've got in store, especially playing in kind of a weak division like the NFC South. I mean, I kind of like the Falcons as a bit of a sleeper team, although they're probably not that much of a sleeper team. I've seen a couple other folks jumping on the Falcons bandwagon, but we'll see. I mean, Arthur Smith now in year 3, got to make a move now, right?
Yeah, he does a little bit.
How about the Carolina Panthers, who have a lot of new faces over there in Charlotte? The Carolina Panthers finished 7-10 last season, but they have the 3rd best odds to win the division this season. They have a new coach and a new quarterback in Bryce Young, who was drafted 1st overall by the Panthers. Remember, the Panthers were involved with that trade with the Bears to get that pick. Wide receiver DJ Moore went to Chicago in that one. They did acquire wide receiver DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, running back Miles Sanders, tight end Hayden Hurst. They got quarterback Andy Dalton, and they drafted wide receiver Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss as well. Frank Reich taking over the ship in Carolina. Reports out of camp indicate that this is kind of a much calmer. Frank Reich is a very seasoned NFL guy. This isn't a college coach anymore like they had under Matt Rule. So things are just very, I guess, like 9 to 5. Everything's very organized. And what are your thoughts on the Panthers this season? They did have a great defense last year. Brian Burns was coming back, and he was a great defensive stud last year for the Panthers.
Yeah, you know, I don't really know what to think here. One, they've brought in some offensive talent to try and help Bryce Young a little bit. So that's a little interesting. But when you look at the receivers, you know, it's an aging DJ Chark, an aging Adam Thielen. Like, I'm not sure that they're really going to be that great at receiver. And then running back wise, you obviously have Miles Sanders, who was, you know, amazing last year. But, you know, when he doesn't have such a potent offense, I don't know if he will be that good. So right. I think as a team, there's a ton of question marks.
Yeah, especially with Bryce Young back there. What is he going to look like? I mean, we can only garner so much from camp reports saying he's been awesome until you actually see him start to face some game action there. So a lot of question marks in Carolina. Given that, are there any bets that you like on Underdog Fantasy for the season-long option?
You know, I found one that is interesting to me, and that's Bryce Young higher than 12.5 interceptions. Over the last 10 years, there's only been 2 rookie quarterbacks that played every game was under 12.5. And that was Dak Prescott, who had 4, and then Kyler Murray, who had 12. So I just think with that situation, not a ton of talent around him, that he's going to have a hard time staying under the 12 number.
To your point earlier about those wide receivers and maybe a lack of depth there, I'm actually going to fade one of their wide receivers, and that's DJ Chark. We're going to go under 700 receiving yards for him. DJ Chark's a great receiver, but he just hasn't been healthy. He's been under the past 2 seasons, and he's actually averaged just 10.8 games per season through the 5 seasons that he's played in the NFL. The last time he went over was 2020. He had 706, and now he's going to a rookie quarterback that's just starting out and going to figure things out. Like you mentioned, you have his interceptions going over. I think he's going to take a while to acclimate to NFL speed, and I think some of those wide receivers might, to the detriment of some of their numbers, specifically DJ Chark, who, again, hasn't been able to stay fully healthy for very long in the league. So I'm going to go lower than 700.5 receiving yards for him as well. Moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who somehow, despite having a losing record last year, managed to find their way into the playoffs and as NFC South champions. However, Tom Brady is gone now. They signed quarterback Baker Mayfield. They also signed running back Chase Edmonds. They re-signed cornerbacks Jamel Dean and linebacker Devontae David, Ryan Neal. Julio Jones is out. They drafted Kalijah Kancey in the first round on the defensive line. Kyle Trask is listed as co-starting quarterback, which is an interesting quarterback battle to watch there in Tampa Bay. What are your expectations for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2023, Tyler?
Not a lot, Shannon. Not a lot. I mean, honestly, there's not really much to talk about here. They were bad with Tom Brady, and I don't see how they improve without him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't quite frankly either. And especially it seems like everyone else in the division is kind of leveling up a little bit, or at least acquiring the talent to get themselves there. They might be going through a little bit of growing pains, especially with some of these younger quarterbacks. But when you got Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask battling it out, I mean, that's kind of the biggest storyline in camp right now. We don't really know what we're going to see, which is why I'm a little hesitant to kind of go near a lot of their players for any kind of season-long prop betting. There's just so much uncertainty with what this team is actually going to look like. There's too many question marks for me to accurately say, what you can expect from some of these offensive playmakers this season. So
yeah,
I'm not.
I agree there. Yeah, I'm not touching any bets there. The one thing though is like that win total at 6.5. I don't see how they get to 7.
So lower.
So
we're going lower.
I don't mind going lower there, and that's likely the only bet I would make on this team.
When you look at the overall picture of the NFC South, who do you see emerging as NFC South champions in 2023?
I think the class of the division is the New Orleans Saints. Now, I think the Falcons have a legit chance to take that from them, but we're going to need to see a big step up from Ritter to make that happen. And I don't know if he can take a big enough step up.
Yeah. I'm going to say Falcons in this one. I think they have a chance to do that. I don't know that the Saints got a whole lot better from last year. Yes, they brought in Derek Carr, which is an upgrade for them. However, when you're looking at the Atlanta Falcons, they've got some talented guys on their roster. They made improvements to the defense that was struggling last year. And last season, they ran the ball because they just had to, kind of. Now they run the ball because they're going to intentionally run the ball down your throat with some of these playmakers. They've got one of the best offensive lines. And I think the pressure will be off a little bit because you're going to have so much talent with those running backs. And I'm excited to see that offense. And so I'm going to roll with the Falcons in this one. I think they've got it. So, I mean, there's a lot of noise coming out of Falcons camp that everyone's really excited about this team. I'm going to just roll with it. Let's see what they got.
In best ball, I've been actively targeting this team a little bit. I think it is really interesting, and there's just so much variance as far as what the team can do. I think they could run the ball enough where both Algier and Bijan are worthy picks. I do think Bijan's being overdrafted a little bit, but there's no doubt that his talent level is exceptional. And he is going to be getting the workload here. But I just think there's a lot of interesting pieces on this team and some very, very explosive players that could make the team very exciting. That's why I'm trying to target it a little bit in best ball.
Yeah, and I also just like the way that they coach. I mean, they got so much more out of their team last year than I think anyone thought was legitimately possible given their roster. And now that they've got some guys back there to solidify a little bit on defense and offense, I feel like they got a decent squad. And playing in the NFC South, which isn't the most competitive, I think that's going to help them a lot. So I'm anxious to see the Falcons offense in 2023. The Saints will have I'm curious to see them as well, especially with some of those new faces and Derek Carr, how much of an impact he will really have on this New Orleans Saints offense. Do you have any thoughts on that offense?
I mean, I like the offense as a whole. They have playmakers at running back. They have playmakers at tight end. Chris Olave could be a superstar at the wide receiver position. I think it's a very interesting offense and interesting team. Carr is a solid vet quarterback, so I like the Saints.
And if we're getting really crazy, I mean, there is maybe a universe where the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young comes out slinging it, Frank Reich gets him in line. Their defense was good last year. All right, am I taking too many crazy pills over here? Lay off the edibles.
I see no chance they win the division.
Okay.
I just don't see that happening.
All right, fine. All right, that's going to do it for us today on the PreSnap Podcast. Make sure to check out all of our other division previews. We're down to the West, I think. We've just got NFC and AFC West to go, and then we are ready for the season. So make sure to do us a huge favor. If you're enjoying our content, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, comment below, let us know what you think about the NFC South and who's going to emerge victorious. And if there's anyone that you really like in terms of best ball or fantasy or just any props that you like for the season, let us know in the comments. And make sure to check out the LineStar app, linestarapp.com, to help you dominate in daily fantasy and in the prop betting market. That's going to do it for us today. Good luck in all of your prop betting endeavors. We'll see you guys next time.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.